Louisville, Haywards Heath, Wivelsfield, Burgess Hill, Essex, Preston Park, and Brighton.
Good morning to everyone. This is Sandy Holman, Director of the Culture Co-op and United in Unity. It is always an honor to come to these listening sessions that are put on in partnership with Sojo and a lot of other incredible people. That's the Sojourner Truth African American Heritage Museum in Sacramento at the African Marketplace. I like to call out the address because the museum and the African Marketplace is a virtual treasure of opportunity there, 2251. They have been doing magnificent work for years. Shona McDaniels is the curator, and she is overseeing a team of amazing, brilliant people who are making a difference in the area of social justice and community change. And I'm just really, really excited that this work is happening. I'm really thankful to Liza and Alpha who facilitate these listening sessions because they are opportunities to learn. And again, I want to thank all of you who are joining us today. So I thought it would be nice just to go around and introduce ourselves. I know we have a few guests. Before we do that, I want to say that these listening sessions are recorded and they're sent out to a lot of people across the board. It's an opportunity for us as artists, as change makers, as people who are trying to make a difference in the community to connect and to impact people at the highest levels. And so it's a wonderful thing that these listening sessions, which are happening on Tuesdays from 11 to 1, as well as blog radio talk, which I'm going to ask Alpha just to briefly share what that's about too, are things that you really, really should be tuning into because it's a way for us to not waste time and to share our brilliance and our wealth. Before we introduce, again, I want to stop for a second. I want to take a moment to acknowledge, as always, I was taught to do by my ancestors and my elders and my family. I want to take a moment to acknowledge, again, all those who've come before us, all of those who have left their lessons and the remnants of their wisdom so we can learn from that from the past so that we don't repeat the same mistakes over and over, so that we don't waste time recreating or reinventing wheels that they already know can help us in the work that we're doing. So I just want to do a moment of silence for them and for all the people, again, who are no longer here with us, who have sacrificed so much as they seek social justice, equity, allowing people to bloom in their brilliance and in making a difference at a time when it's much needed. So I'm going to ask you to close your eyes just for a second, for a minute. And I want you to take a deep breath in. And to blow it out. And if you would like to call out the name of someone who's no longer here, who made a difference in the work that you do, feel free to do so. I'm going to start out by calling three, and that's my father, Roosevelt Holman, my mother, Arlene Holman, my sister, Cherie Holman, and one more, my brother, Rodney Holman. Anyone else, feel free to call out a name of someone who's no longer here, who's made a difference in your life and the work that you do.
Call out my namesake, Alpha Bruton, Lois Burks, Samuel Bruton.
I'll say.
I'd like to offer my mother, Mary Welch, and my father, Charles Welch.
I'll say.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if you don't feel comfortable calling out someone, you can think about that person and send them the love and appreciation and the thankfulness for all that they taught you, all that they did for you, and all that you will be in this time that we're living in. Take another deep breath in and blow it out. Okay. So why don't we just really quickly go around? We have a nice, small, cozy group, which I actually love because it gives us an opportunity to have discourse. So let's just go around and say our name, which organization we represent, and one reason why you're here today. So we'll start with Alpha, if she doesn't mind. I'd
I
like to
am
begin on that.
Alpha Bruton. I'm with the Sojourner Truth African Heritage Museum. I'm the research and development consultant and also project managing the Capital Region Creative Core Sojo project. I'm running this series of listening sessions through the museum and representing the pop-up research station cafe, which I'm co-producer with my partner Liza Simone. And she'll introduce herself. She's programming out of Los Angeles in the Long Beach area, but I am located here in Chicago. I am also a visual artist, an art activist, and leading this charge with the museum and the museum practice.
Thank you. You want to go ahead and go next? I think it's Nan, and I am site challenged, so feel free to chime in and introduce yourselves.
Yes, my name is Nan, short for Nancy Rowan. I live in Davis. I'm here as just myself. I'm also a part of the Davis Friends meeting. And in that context, we have been wanting to educate ourselves and each other about racial justice and social justice issues. So I was interested in attending today. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us. Liza? And if you guys, if you're willing to turn on your cameras as we're introducing ourselves, I would really appreciate that. That just so that we can see each other's faces, you know, in a virtual world. It's all we have is this computer. And if you need to turn them back off, you can, but I would really appreciate if you would turn on your cameras as we're introducing ourselves. And I thank you for that. Thank you so much. So, Liza, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, please forgive the no camera. I'm recovering from a successful surgery. Very happy it went well.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I am with Pop-Up Research Station, Phantom Galleries LA, an art and vacant storefront program that is in Los Angeles and currently also is active in Orange County, and Space in the Gap, which is an elevation of the art and storefront programming that utilizes vacancies for artist studios and artists in marketplaces and other things. And I'm grateful to be here to learn and to share. And thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you for your introduction. And again, fast healing to you. So,
thank you so much.
and the incredible Rachel, do you mind sharing who you are?
Good morning, everybody. I'm Rachel Hartso. I'm the Arts and Culture Manager for the City of Davis, and we are also one of the Creative Core recipients. I'm a longtime friend and admirer of Sandy, so I try to take advantage of whatever opportunities I have to work with her or to learn from her and her colleagues. And I'm here partially as just a co-recipient of Creative Core to see what some of the other groups in our region are doing, but also just for my own continual better understanding of the social issues we're faced with and how I can be a better advocate and leader in the community. Thank you.
And Rachel, I so appreciate you and all that you do for our community. You're a trailblazer here. So I'm always honored to see your face. So thank you for taking the time to join us. Lucas, I think it says, and again, I apologize if I say your name wrong.
You got it. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Lucas Hatton with here on behalf of Davis Repertory Theater. We're also a co-recipient of one of the Creative Core grants through the city. And I felt like I got so much wisdom from last month that I had to come back, and and more impressively, maybe I even found my notes from last month, which I know is not easy to do in our busy, scattered, disorganized lives. But we were able to, with one of our recent workshops, kind of immediately incorporate one of the ideas that surfaced last month about bringing African and Afrocentric art to the workshop that we were doing with high school students at the Black Student Union at Davis Senior High. And I'm again just here to listen and as folks have said before, continue to find ways and best practices for incorporating racial justice work into my practice as an artist, actor, director, facilitator, etc.
Thank you. It's such an honor to have you here, and I'm happy to hear that you were able to bless the students with some work that would reflect who they are. So thank you for that. Mia?
Hi, I'm Mia. I'm currently an intern at the Culture Co-op. I am the art and design team lead, and I'm also a third year at UC Davis. I'm majoring in design, and so I'm very passionate about social justice and art. So I believe that it really is transformative and can help create change in the world. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here.
And I'm really honored to have Mia. Mia is she's so humble. She is a tremendous spirit. As you know, we all work with young people. Sojo does that. City of Davis does that. Culture Co-op, we've been doing that for years. And Mia is one of the brightest stars we've had here. She is going to be sharing with us a little bit earlier how she uses her work to push forward social justice. And again, you know, our young people are our future, so I think we can learn a lot. There's a couple others who are supposed to join us. I hope they do, because I don't see them on here right now. So, but thank you for coming here today, Mia. I appreciate that very, very much. I think it's Richard that I see. Is it Richard?
Yes, you do. Thank you so much. And apologies, I jumped on. I was just coming back from an appointment and
Oh,
now
no
I'm back
problem.
at home. So back online with you, being able to share the camera. Richard Falcon with the Office of Arts and Culture, working with you all here on the Capital Region Creative Corps. Great to see so many recipients here. Also, I do spend time as an organizer with United Latinos, and also as executive director and artistic director for Teatro Nahual, a social justice-based Latino theater company. So glad to be here with all of you and hear what's going on.
I am so happy that you're here with us. Thank you for coming. I look forward to finding out more about the work that you're doing. So that just sounds phenomenal. I'm getting excited. Is
Oh
that
yeah,
Tess?
well
Oh,
you
go
here,
ahead.
you at Sojo are right here in my neighborhood. I live in Valley High, so
Oh,
you're right
I
down the
love it.
street. Yeah.
Yeah, you're definitely in my growing up part. So this is beautiful. Do I see Tessa Smith there? Is that Tessa? Is she there?
It is, Sandy.
How are you
I
doing, beautiful queen? How are you?
I am fine. I'm going to turn my camera on and turn it right back off.
Okay. It'd be lovely to see your face.
This is a moo day for me. Hey Rachel. Hi
Hey,
everyone. This is a moo day
oh,
for me, and so I'm off work actually, and but I wanted to be here and check it out. Appreciate art so much. It speaks to me. It messages people in a way that we don't always have the words for, and that's for sure. Um, and I'm struggling just trying to put together a flyer for our cultural considerations on working with Indigenous people. Me and art, I can't do it, but appreciate what can be done in this vein when it comes to working with our community. So I wanted to know what was going on here and how I could join in. So I work for a Yolo County Health and Human Services Agency. I am the Cultural Competence and Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Coordinator, doing all things that ensure that we are being culturally responsive, not just to our neighbors, but to the people that we serve, to our coworkers, and that any services that we offer are culturally appropriate and linguistically appropriate. So do a lot of work with our farm workers out in our, with our promotoras, do a lot of work with our LGBTQ community, and want to be with you in this work and hope you'll join me. I'm going to think up something we can do together.
Yeah, Tessa is a powerful sister, and I consider her a sister. It's an honor to have her here. Also, while she's on, I'm proud to have been a part of the legacy of doing Juneteenth in Yolo County for over,
Yes,
I don't know, 12, 13, 14 years, and they're continuing that legacy on with in partnership with Emoja. It's a group that Tessa oversees, as well as UC Davis. They will be having their Juneteenth the first Sunday. We always did ours early so we wouldn't conflict with other people. And I want to encourage you all to go. I'm no longer a part of the committee, but I'm a part of their perpetual committee, right, Tessa? In
that's
spirit.
exactly right.
And I think it's June the 2nd, this Sunday at UC Davis. It's a wonderful opportunity to meet people. One of my favorite artisans will be there, Christelle, who is a master quilter, for those of you who like quilts, among a lot of other people that we've partnered with over the year through African Marketplace, the community, and so forth. So I really appreciate Tessa's presence being here. It's pretty critical. I'm looking forward to doing more collaborative work with her. So thank you for showing up today, Tessa.
Absolutely.
And Melissa, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? And again, if I pronounce your name wrong, I'm sorry, because I am, like I said, sight challenged.
Wow, that's perfect. Thank you. Happy to be here. My name's Melissa Cerrone. I also work with Richard Falcone in the Office of Arts and Culture, City of Sacramento. I'm the program manager and have been administering the Creative Core Capital Region. So I'm thrilled to see everybody here who's participating in that project. And I'm here specifically because I've been checking out the stuff that Alpha's been putting online, the different events and the people that you're working with. And I've been so inspired and really
Oh.
jazzed by the kinds of workshops you're doing and listening sessions, and you just are bringing together all the right voices into the room. And I just finally wanted to come and check one out because yeah, this is the way the way we were hoping the work would go. So it's just fascinating to see what you've been able to do. So thank you.
Oh.
Well,
Well,
thank
I
you,
want
Melissa.
to, yeah, I want to thank you and Richard, for supporting such a project as this. Alpha, Shona, even here at UC Davis, Rachel, all of these people I know, I've been blessed to get to know. There's some new ones, but they are doing tremendous, mighty work. It's a template for the future for projects like this, because I know Sojo's been doing this work for years, so it wasn't like a new thing to start. UC Davis and Rachel and the City of Davis has had the same commitment, Tessa Smith, and of course, my organization, the Culture Co-op. So I want you to know that you are doing something that is making a difference every moment of its operation, and it's been exciting to be a part of this team. So again, I want to thank you all for gathering today. And again, a special shout out to Alpha for putting these listening sessions on, because, they are important for us to learn from each other and to talk about things. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do this session today is because the times call for us to be real, honest, and impactful with the work that we're doing. In other words, this is not work to just be doing so that we can say we fulfilled the requirements of a grant. As most of you know, I don't need to tell you that. This is actually sacred work. And I like to encourage people to see this as sacred work. And why is it sacred? It's sacred because it takes a certain amount of bravery in the times that we're living in. It takes bravery to speak truth to power, and it takes bravery to do the real things that need to happen for people's lives to be better, and for equity and social justice and marginalized communities to feel like that they can survive and thrive, not just survive. So I think this is sacred work, and I want to talk about why we need to make sure we do some things prior and as we're doing that work, because we no longer have the time to wait until everyone gets up to a certain speed and then do the work optimally. We have to do these things in parallel. So the Culture Co-op and United in Unity promotes systemic change, equity, inclusion, diversity, and literacy for quality education for all. And the reason why we do that, and thank you, Liza, the reason why we do that is because we know that those things are foundational for doing any real substantive, long-term, sustainable social justice work, equity work, parity work, equality work, and making communities be healthier. So I've been doing this work for over 36 years now, and I've realized that one of the things that's challenging for so many organizations who mean well is really dealing with the fact that a lot of times, and I say this with total humility um, and respect for all of what we're doing, is a lot of times we're afraid to do the real work that it takes, the real work that it takes to really create change. In other words, um, a lot of DEI efforts, as they've been called, are really only hitting the surface. They're fulfilling a checkbox that they're showing that we have a commitment towards making a difference, at least philosophically meaning, but the things, the constructs, the tenets, and the ways they're doing the work really aren't changing much at all. And as we think about the artists out there who are out there on the front lines using their arts to bring truth to power, to empower people, which, by the way, is a new national initiative. There's this new national kind of incubus of testing where they want to use use artists to be catalysts for change in their communities. I absolutely love it. But I also feel we need to equip them more with the tools of a base level of understanding so they're not just going out there doing their exquisite and beautiful art, but they actually have some understanding, some foundational understanding of what it takes, some best practices of what it takes to optimize what their art may do with another person. And so that's why I wanted to do this session today. And it's going to seem a little backwards, but it is foundational to some things. So I'm hoping, bear with me because I'm not the techie person. And Alpha, I want to make sure I can share. I'm going to start to share some things with you. And I'm going to be asking you some questions. We're going to kind of go back and forth. Bear with me as I go through some talking point parts. But I'm
Liza is our tech support, Sandy.
I'm sorry, Liza.
We
I'm
are
going to
good.
stay.
And
I'm getting.
you did an amazing job. You underestimate how fabulous you are in this, and you are good to go.
Okay, well, let's see if it come up this morning. Maybe I let Mark go too soon. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna share sound. I'm so glad he came on and told me to do this before he left. Hold on just a sec. Had a little glitch there. Let's try again. Okay, can you all see that okay? Everyone, can you hear me okay? Okay, super.
Yes.
Yes, we
Good.
can.
Yes,
we
yes,
can hear you.
yes.
Okay, so again, our work is national and actually international too. I've been really blessed to work with some master teachers. I'm still under their tutelage, and I'm humbled that they saw me as being worthy of their tutelage. And these are master think tankers whose scholarship and expertise has always guided me. So I pay homage to all of them. And I'm really blessed by our local entities here who trust me enough to partner with me, one of them being Sojo, and what the work that you all are doing here today and supporting, in particular, Richard and Melissa and the rest of you. So this was titled, basically utilizing the arts to lay a foundation for change, because that is something that's going to be critical in the work that we're doing. If you are looking for a local hub,
Sandy,
yes.
can you enlarge your slide deck so that we see the entire slide deck and not your
Okay, hold up. Can you see now? Is that
that's
better?
perfect. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, so the African marketplace, if you're looking for some local hubs of artists coming together in powerful ways, again, I want to encourage you to go to the Africa Marketplace. There's Del Sol. There's the Asian diasporic organizations in Sacramento. There's a lot of people from different historical practices that are just doing amazing work. And again, they're located at 2251 Florin Road. There is always something going on there. Sojo is a big part of it. This was their recent billboard. I'm just showing some of the beautiful ways they're already using arts. This is one of the beautiful billboards that the team with Sojourner Truth African Heritage Museum has put together, and Kevin in particular plays a key role in making this happen. But they already are using the arts to get the attention of people and laying the foundation for using the arts for change. We want to get the attention of people, even if it's just to make them ask, what's going on there? What are they doing there? Something's going on. I'm seeing all these amazing things. Of course, I also want to bring attention to you, and these are just a few housekeeping things. They're going to be having the 13th annual Banana Festival. You'll see dance, spoken word, artisans out there selling their wares. That's going to be 17th and the 18th. That's another way to meet a whole bunch of people from the community who are change makers. And we're talking about change makers, and dare I say a few game changers, as I like, those people who are really out there pushing on the foundation of love, wisdom, learning, and the arts, making a difference in their communities. So I really want to encourage you to go there. Recently, we had the opportunity to do a concert using music and spoken word and education called Sankofa Life. And this is one of our partners, Mr. Lewis, who also works with the Sojourner Truth Museum and their cohorts. He is an amazing artist. He uses hip hop to educate people around issues of equity and so forth. And I've been privileged to work with them. And I want you to know these events really make a difference. And how do we know they make a difference? Well, Alpha would say it's important to collect data, and whether it's data from verbal feedback, whether it's data from partners you're working with, whether it's data from community members. So again, and we would even encourage you, this data is what's going to drive our work. A lot of people are doing things that feel good, that they think are making a difference, and feeling good has its merit and it's a critical part. But if we're talking about making real difference, you've got to collect data to know what is working and what is not. So again, my organization is the Culture Co-op. Those three birds that you see in that heart, and the reason why it's in a heart is because all of our work is on the foundation of love. This is tough work. You cannot come into this work hating any group or any people or anyone. And so the truth of this work is tough enough for people. It's hard to bring people to the table, just being honest. So this heart encapsulates our commitment to love as its foundation. The Sankofa bird, which is the lower bird that you see, is a commitment to going back to learn from history and practices so that we don't repeat the same mistakes or start from the letter A when we can start from the letter W, because our ancestors and predecessors and change makers have left many nuggets of wisdom from us to learn from. The eagle represents soaring high. An eagle and hummingbirds are my favorite birds. Hummingbirds hover. They stop for a minute. They survey what's around them. And in a second, they can fly away and do it. We need to do more hovering before we fly off and do the work we do often. And eagles, they just have that really incredible perspective too. They're majestic, they're committed, they're loyal, they are hardy birds. So all of that was intentional when we created this logo. So one of the things I wanted to talk about today that is foundational to utilizing the arts for social justice is what I call a paradigm for transformative impact in education, organizations, and communities. But I want to stop for a second, and I want to ask you guys this question. I asked it before, and now that we have this group together, I'd like to ask you, what is one thing that you feel right now? How are you feeling about the effectiveness of the work you're doing? Just a brief sentence. I want you to think about that. We shared something like this in one of the other sessions, and I found it so powerful. And we're not going to do as much as we did the last session, but I would like to know, in a nutshell, how are you feeling about your effectiveness in this work that you're doing as a part of this grant, in general, in your community, and so forth? And I'm going to come back to the group. Is there anyone who's willing to volunteer how they are feeling about their effectiveness right now in the work that they're doing? And welcome, Jennifer and Brianna. Is there anyone who's willing to share?
I'm gonna ask Yaya to share, since she just did some great advocacy work at the state capitol this weekend, putting people on the spot here.
Yeah, you're being put on the spot. How are you feeling about the effectiveness of your work? I don't know if she's there.
I'm here. Sorry, I just have a little 6-week-old who I'm just put down, but now he doesn't want to be down anymore.
Oh, he's like, I want to be in your arms.
Yes, he does.
Yeah,
I'm gonna turn off the mic. Sorry, turn off the camera
Okay.
and respond. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Go ahead, yeah.
So okay, now he's settled down.
Do you feel your work is being effective overall? How do you feel about the effectiveness of your work?
So I am feeling somewhat effective, and then I just feel a little bit depleted when I don't stop to pause to renourish and to refill. I feel really effective on the ground and in motion, and in solidarity with my colleagues through Sojourner Truth, through Indigenous justice, and the work that we really recently just did is an extension and a continuation of. Oh, there's a little burp from the guy. Continuation around the work of missing and murdered Indigenous relatives. And just, system impacted families really is the broader picture. So I do feel honored in the work. I also feel inspired by the strength and, commitment that families make to search for their relatives or to fight for the justice for their relatives. I just always have to remember to also replenish, also rest.
And I want to ask everyone to put their hand on their heart for a second. And I know this is an unusual request, but again, she's reminding us of the hardy work that we're doing. This is not just, stuff that we're just out there just doing. This is some mighty work. She's working on behalf of missing Indigenous loved ones and so forth. And so we honor all those who are missing and ask that peace and love be brought to their families and some sort of resolution as to their whereabouts are. And I thank you and honor you, Yaya, for the work that you're doing and appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you so much, Cindy. I'm glad my heart is here with you.
Yeah, and mine with you. And I mean that with all sincerity. And I see that our tremendous Shona McDaniels or someone from our office has joined us. I don't know, Shona. Is that you, Shona? Shauna, I'm sorry. Shona, is that you? Okay, maybe it's just
It may be Daphne using the portal.
Is there someone else who would like to share how they're feeling about the effectiveness of their work overall and the work that we're doing?
Sandy, I'll chime in a little bit.
Okay, Tessa, thank you.
My nose stays to the grindstone so much, that when I do look up and go, how am I doing and am I being effective? Folks say I am, but I don't always feel that I am because I get that pushback on, we don't want to go deep. We don't want to go back and look at how we got to where we are today. And it gets to be very, very challenging. But then every once in a while, something will come up. Like I got this message from somebody that works in our epidemiology department with infectious diseases. and they would just share the story. This is why cultural competence is important.
Yeah.
We learned from our cultural competence committee that when we're doing respirator handlings and working with our clients and stuff, you don't go in there and just proceed to take off somebody's hijab or their headdress if they're part of the Sikh community. We need
Yes.
to make special arrangements.
Yes.
That's an awareness that we're trying to get to. That's a respect for all different kinds of people that we're trying to get to. And I thought that was very cool. And one other thing, just because it tickled me so, is our first 5 community did a translation of 0 to 5 years, ages and stages of development. And they asked me if the cultural competence could help with the translation of this document, because even the CDC didn't have one for Russian. And so we got this group to do it, and they sent it back, and I'm like, wait a minute. I don't know Russian, no telling what this might say. And so I sent it to a liaison of mine in the Russian speaking community, and she goes, oh, no, this is not friendly language. It's not person friendly language. It's not family friendly language. And here's some things you can do. And that person worked with the Russian speaking and Ukrainian speaking community. And so she made a bunch of changes to the documents. And we had that translator go back and fix it to make it more appropriate. Yeah. This is how we reach out and build trust and transparency in this kind of work between, what can I say, between assassinations when we're all heart and we don't have anything in place for us to stand in solidarity. So now, that was more than one sentence. Sorry about that.
No, I appreciate you sharing that, Tessa. And, really what we're hearing, you guys, is that again, that's why I was telling you this is sacred work, because it does take bravery when I mean, I even know in my own county, Yolo County, I've worked with Tessa Smith before. We started a process, but it was just the tip of the iceberg. I've always wanted to go back with Yolo County and finish this work. It takes bravery to stay the course, and people want to just, well, let's forget about the past. Let's go to the future. Let's just focus. You cannot be effective. And I want to say this. You will not be as effective and optimize your work unless you have a clear, basic, what I call satiation rate of understanding of historical constructs, practices, dogma, policies, all of that, which has created what we're seeing today. That is just essential. And you show me anyone who doesn't have that, then I'll show you someone's work, even if it seems like it's spectacular. That is not as spectacular as it could be if they don't have that understanding. It just will save you a lot of grace. I'm going to ask if anyone else wants to share before I go on how you're feeling about the effectiveness of your work. And it is common.
Sandy, if they want to put their comment in, and Richard does have his hand up, if they want to put a comment in the chat, that'd be great, because we are collecting testimony as part of our research and data collection.
Please feel free to put a comment in the chat. And Richard, thank you again. I'm sorry I didn't see your hand.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Thank you. I just want to say for myself, as far as how I'm feeling, because I came into this work, I was born into a family who we were assimilationists. We were here for the American dream. We didn't, I was not raised with my culture. We didn't vote. We didn't organize. Many of our family were field workers or work in the docks or whatever. But it really wasn't until through my continuation of my art that I found the value in art, especially in the civic engagement practice, in helping community practice. And that's why I'm here today doing the work that I do, just because art introduced me to the possibilities of what could be. Yeah. And so I became a voting member, mostly because of my wife, because when I started dating her, she said, wait, you don't vote? That's a deal breaker. You want to date me, you got to get involved. And so I did. But what drives me and continues to drive me, watching Yaya holding that child and loving on that child, that is why I do what I do. for my
Us.
grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, and for those that I will never meet along the way that will carry on the legacy. And I
Yeah.
think that's why a lot of us do the work that we do.
Yes.
Because as Obama said with that title of that book, The Audacity of Hope,
Mhm.
with all that's going wrong in the world today, we must remain hopeful.
Yes.
We
Yes.
must remain that there is something for our children in the future.
Yes.
Seventh generation sustainability, that what we do today is for that seventh generation down, that we will probably not see the change in our lifetime, but
Yes.
we still do it because we
Yes.
carry the hope. And so, Yaya, thank you for holding that child today.
Yes, yes, and Richard, I couldn't have said it better myself. So I really earnestly believe that when we give up hope, and I'm not talking about kind of like a Pollyanna hope either. I'm talking about a solid core hope. Cornell West talks about the insensibility of sort of an empty hope, but a real hope that's based on knowing that it's going to take tremendous work, knowing that we probably won't always see the fruits of that, like Richard just pointed out, but knowing that our future generations hopefully will have a chance to benefit from the seed that we're planting now. So I really appreciate that. And Richard, I want to say to you, they usually say there's about 4 responses for people when they are dealing with tremendous oppression, inequity, injustice, and so forth. So usually there's 4 key, there's more, but there's 4 key things. And I'm not going to bring them all up today, but I'll say one of them is when people are under tremendous pressure and stress from being oppressed for centuries, cross generationally, and so forth, a common response is to assimilate. And so that's often a part of a journey. One of the responses is you try to assimilate and try to be what the culture, dominant culture wants you to be. You try to play the game. You do the way things you're told. And for many people who do that at some point in their life, if they're considered one of the vulnerable or marginalized communities, they find out that it's still not working, that doing that. My dad, I'll use my dad. I remember him telling, baby, I remember I told you you could do anything you wanted to do. And I don't want you to ever forget that. But Daddy made a mistake. He should tell you you could do anything you wanted to do, but you're going to face tremendous forces, tremendous racism, tremendous sexism. Sometimes you're going to outright fail. You're going to want to give up. It almost brought tears to my eyes as he was saying this, because this was toward the end of his life as he was recollecting and collecting the wisdom that he had learned. So, one common response is assimilation. Another common response is fear. So people who don't know what to do, who don't feel empowered, they will totally shrink away and they will be victimized. They actually tend to be more victimized because they don't know how to advocate for themselves. They don't know how to stand up for themselves. Again, I'm just going over 4 major responses. So and this is not a judgmental thing. This is reality, a reality thing. So this is your person who's privately being victimized. And many people in our communities, and what this grant is trying to address, and so many others who are really being real about it, are trying to empower people to give them a voice. So some people will just shrink away and hide and try, to stay low. I remember my brother, Rodney, who was a big black man, tremendous, 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 beautiful soul, a teddy bear. We called him the gentle giant. He's no longer with us. And he'd been stopped over 28 times by the police. And he would try to shrink and hide. My dad had taught him, put your hands up, he taught him all this stuff because he would just be sitting in a park, walking down the street. And that was his response until he couldn't take it anymore. I should say my other brother who couldn't take it anymore. And he endangered himself because he started to kick back after his about 28th, 29th time of being stopped. So that shrinking back will only work to a certain degree because when things are inflamed in our communities, you become more visible. My art team, which was primarily 1 year Asian diasporic, and this is when they were attacking Chinese and blaming them for the virus. They did an art show called "My Race Is Not a Virus," and so these are real things that they weren't able to shrink away anymore. One of them said this to me. Asians can she said, Sandy, sometimes Asians can kind of hide under the radar because we're the good minority, we're the model minority. Those who work with me, we talk about real stuff in our internship. and they learned that they were the model minority, and they, whereas blacks, and they would say this to you, these are coming from Asian people that have worked with me, they would say, whereas blacks are considered the troublesome minority. Well, when that happened with the virus, they couldn't hide anymore, and they were being accosted in Davis community. I remember having to go to the store at Target because one of my interns who was from India was being attacked because they were blaming her and her Chinese friend for the virus. It was just crazy stuff. So those are two options. A third thing that people will do is they'll become revolutionary. And that's not necessarily a bad word. A revolutionary is going to fight back. They're going to look for strategies. The goal is to stay alive as you fight back, right? So they're going to look for strategies to fight against systems that are trying to oppress them, that are trying to keep them down, that are trying to hold them back. That would be, some of those people would be like your Martin Luther Kings, or even your Malcolm X's, or your Cesar Chavez, anyone that you can think of in history that has said, no, we're not going to stand for this. They are very brave. They put their lives on the line. In fact, history has taught us, and this goes to the fourth category of people. There are some who will fight so much that it will cost them their lives because they will be made targets. So history has taught us those who have been some of the biggest change makers are what I would call game changers. They pay dear for that. And Nelson Mandela put in prison for 28 years. That's a dear price to pay. Think about all your major leaders that were murdered and attacked and assassinated. That is a rare category. Most of us aren't necessarily willing, or many people aren't willing to give up their lives for a cause. So that's a fourth category. There's more, but the reason why I wanted to frame this for you, because it's okay to ask yourself as you look at laying the foundation for change, laying the foundation using the arts even, what category best describes you right now where you're at? Are you a person in that last category who would say, this is something I'm willing to give my life for? I'm not asking you to do that, but are you that kind of a person, a game changer type person who's going to have so much in the front? Are you a person who's going to be considered a revolutionary? And we have to redefine that term because it's been connoted with something bad and evil. When a revolutionary to me is a person who wants to see the best for all and see good change for all. That word has been co-opted in a negative way. Or are you a person who just wants to get through life? And again, there's no judgment here. There's just knowing where you are and what you're capable of doing is part of laying a foundation for any kind of change work. If I'm a person who just wants to live a good life, maybe I'm going to identify some things that aren't going to, put me at risk or anything, but still are going to make a little difference. It still matters. Or are you going to try to assimilate? And so for those who are assimilationists, I like to say to you, at some point, you will be faced with the fact that you will need to still address the issues that are hurting people that look like you and so many others. So I digressed a bit, but it was a good time to bring that up because of what Richard said. There is no judgment here. We are all human beings. And as we're doing this work, part of it is going to take honesty with ourselves. So I'm going to go back to Sharon, if you don't mind, unless anyone has any quick comments or questions they'd like to make. Would anyone like to make any questions or make any comments? Yes, go ahead, Melissa.
I'm just going to put this out there as a comment, and probably because, Rachel, you're here today too. When I think about effectiveness, I also think about working within government, which puts us also in a different situation than perhaps when we worked in a nonprofit or another type of organization, or we worked on our own. And it leaves us sometimes feeling disappointed, not enough, not ever being as true to our values as we want to be in any given situation. And I guess that's just something I want to put out there as a challenge, and something that if we could build a cohort around people who had this challenge, and we were able to not feel always kind of alone out there doing the work, because sometimes you do feel that way. That's it.
So I love that you brought that up. I really do. I had a colleague reach out to me. She was a professor, and she asked me, Sandy, do you really think a person's able to do true social justice, equity work within the confines of an institution such as education, a government entity, or a private entity? And I'm very honest, and I want you guys to hear what I'm going to say, and it bears no judgment against you. It is very difficult to do it to the fullest. I want to say that when you are within an institution working with their policies and their practices, all these things have been constructed and built in such a way where those kinds of efforts are only allowed to go to a certain extent. Because if it's going to challenge the actual structural aspects of that entity, it is considered a threat. And so, having said that, you have got to approach that work differently. And we do work with people who are within institutions, because I've been within them myself. And usually, I'll be honest with you, when I was younger, I knew I would only be in certain institutions for 3 to 5 years because I was going to do that work and know that it was going to slowly make me lose my job as I tried to do the real work that needed to be done. I wasn't going in screaming at anyone, acting crazy or whatever. I just knew if I was going to make a change, I could not plan on having a long-term career in that place. That's a decision everyone has to make. And for me, it was so important that I not be in a place and start perpetuating the same things that were hurting and damaging people as a result of worrying about my job being lost, which is a real concern, right? These are real concerns, or as a result of being afraid that I wasn't going to get a promotion. I mean, and I suffered for it. I'm going to be honest with you. I did. I suffered for it. So I would have a 3 to 5 year game plan. I would intentionally look for soft money jobs within government institutions, educational institutions, because I knew that if I saw and witnessed injustice, which most of them had that, inequitable practices and so forth, that it was going to be a challenge. That actually was refreshing for me though, because it allowed me to stay true to myself, but also kind of go through the patterns of building trust with my collaborators, trying to encourage institutions to come up with protocol and systemic things as best they could that would allow all of us to optimize and operate in healthy ways that did not hurt groups of people. Actually, often taking the lead to see that happen, taking them to step one. Listen to me now. Step two, hear me out. Step three, step four, step five. Sandy, could you come into the office, please? Step six. Sandy, we need to talk with you about what you're doing. Step seven. Sandy, I'm not sure if this is going to work out. And me trying to, in love and respect and all of that, do the best I can, but also knowing, oh, Sandy, it's about that 5th year, time for you to exit, with leaving a template of what I felt. I said, well, if you're really sincere and genuine about this work, this is what you really need to do. Whether you decide to do it or not is up to you. But I want to say it's been a privilege to be with you. And it's kind of funny because some of those people that I work for, one of them here being in Yolo County, by the way, she came back to me later and she said, and she apologized to me. She actually apologized to me and she said, I really appreciate your bravery. I can see it now. But yes, Melissa, there's different tactics you have to take when you work within an institution. But I have found that you can build collaborative partnerships in a way. And I will say this, and I say it humbly, I do work in love so much that I know if you can't handle me, oh my gosh, you're not going to be able to, because the way I approach, I'm not going to scream at you. I'm going to be gentle. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to try to say, can we work it out? I'm going to do all the things to try and make it work. So if you can't work with me, that really lets me know where your particular organization is. Having said that, we have to be brave and try to push the needle a little bit. So pull yourselves back for a second, look at your career, look at the institution you're working in. And maybe I'm Rachel. I'm gonna pick on her because she's a dear heart to me. I'm Rachel, and I'm like, okay, I know I'm going to retire in 10 years. So how can I start using my deposit chips a little deeper here? Maybe because I wanted to at least be here and have this job, I have a family and all this. Maybe I haven't been able to do all the things I wanted to do or even should have done, but I got 5 to 10 years. I'm going to start pushing the needle here because it's for the greater good, not just to be a problem. It's for the greater good. It's for the community. And I'm going to seek people and ways to do it that keeps people at the table. And I'm going to know sometimes it's going to be successful and sometimes it's not. Does that make sense, Melissa?
That makes total sense. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I also appreciate your knowing where I am in my career. Like
Oh,
trying to
yeah.
figure out how to get the most out of, the time I have.
I'm gonna tell you what one of my elders who was European American, she said to me, and we were in, and I revere my elders. I don't care what background they come from because I've learned so much from them. And she said, Sandy, and I excuse my language, this was her words. I ain't taking this SHIT anymore. I only got a few years left. I'm going for it. And she meant going forward as far as pushing people to do what they needed to do. That never left me when she said that. She goes, I've had a whole life of not doing what I need to do, wasting time, being afraid. Well, I only got a few years left, and I'm going to make the best of it. And, just trying our best with whatever we are, again, with no judgment. I'm not going to judge you because you didn't do A, B, C, D, although I might say, Melissa, push just a little bit. Come on, then push a little further. Come on, push. Find someone, I might do that, but I'm not going to ever judge you because we all have different responses in an environment that we're in right now, and it's really tough. So I'm going to go.
I have my hand up, and also Tessa has her hand up.
Oh, go ahead.
To
I'm
be
sorry.
acknowledged.
Remember, I can't see a hand, so just speak out, you guys.
That's why I thought I'd let you know that I had my hand up, Sandy. I started this work entering junior college I did a lot of cadre training, and I still talk about cadre training, even with within the context of the Creative Core programming and the youth that we're working with at Sojourner Truth African Heritage Museum, and bringing them through the docent program, bringing them through the internship programs. And now that they're in the junior college and university levels, I really am encouraging that cadre, training. And I was doing that cadre training under the under the umbrella of the African American Studies and learning more about Pan-Africanism. And I will say that was in the mid-70s, because you could already tell where the seniors are the elders at the table, sharing our histories and the kind of impact that we thought we would make. So my programming has always been around community-based grassroots, galvanizing and working that way. So I haven't really been threatened by, even my time at the California Arts Council, my time at the Arts Commission there in Sacramento. I focused on arts advocacy and making sure that the artists that were coming through the art education program position themselves so that as part of their programming, they were over there at that city council, they were over there at the board of supervisors and advocating for funding to come into the arts. And it's all about the way you program and also about positioning yourselves so that when you're doing this work, you are achieving the goals that you want. And it's not jeopardizing, the workplace or your job, but you're doing it as part of structure that's a structure that's already there in place for us. And recently California just had the Arts Summit, and California Arts Advocacy Day. There's a National Advocacy Day, and getting to learn our legislators, getting to learn, and go in and having a voice without being angry or at that point of rage, but we're having and using that voice. And I like what Natalie said here in the chat. In this moment, students across the globe are challenging these institutions and the state in every single way. And the response from institutions have been violent, vile, problematic, and expose these systems at their roots, our roots. So in saying that and reading what she's saying, I learned at an early age about advocacy, about standing out there, making sure that I'm using the arts as my platform, to bring awareness, to, and it's always at a grassroots tactical level. It's not at this high impact level, but I was using it as a high impact level at the state when I did the African American Arts Summit there in California, and other ways that we can bring, and even these conversations is bringing that advocacy, to the forefront without feeling like we're jeopardizing our work. We're pushing national agendas. We're pushing agendas that are very important in the conversation, and to have those conversations without feeling threatened about your job. I guess it's all the way in your training and your approach, to this work. And that's all I'm kind of going to leave with, and we could just expand on it another time. But right now I'm going to turn it over to Tessa so that she can make her comment.
Well, before you do that, I still do want to acknowledge people who have been trained, people who have done all the right things and who are losing their jobs, who are losing their jobs, who are being forced out of their position. Even the students that Natalie is talking about right now, Natalie Crew, who aren't going to even be able to graduate just because they were trying to have a peaceful protest. So, there is an environment that even when you're trying to do it in a way that's constructive without rage, I don't think I work with rage at all. And I know that Alpha wasn't saying that about me, that you can still face consequences, and many people currently are, in particular the students right now. So having a realistic understanding that when you do this work, even when you do it in the most constructive ways, sometimes there's going to be a cost. It's just important to understand. And I think that's okay to acknowledge that a lot of people are suffering, even though they try to do it the right way. So I will go ahead and go to Tessa. Tessa, please feel free to share what you were going to share.
Thanks, Sandy. And I appreciate you kind of circling back on that issue, because it's unfortunate, but in the process of doing this work inside a government agency, I have seen people try to stand strongly and speak in peace and truth, and they are not there anymore.
Yeah.
Now, what I will say is I came up through the ranks from family partner and mental health specialist and mental health trainer, and working with families who had grown and children with disabling mental health issues. And then I was always part of the cultural competence committee, and they tapped me in. I just wanted to be ready if they tapped me in to take on this position. And because of my experience in the community and in our agency, I already have been a member of the SEIU for 30, 40 years. I joined the engineering, the county union as well, and another union. I made sure that my consultant pieces that I do, I keep them cultivated in case I get kicked out. Because at any given time, when you go to speak truth to power, there are different ways that you can be put on the sidelines.
Yes.
And that's part of it. And so if I could just be frank a minute, it's not just me as a Black person. I had to remind people I didn't get this job because I'm Black, even though it was like in 2021 or whatever, right after George Floyd, and it was all kinds of knee-jerk DEI efforts being put out there. But we, as a group of people who want to find peaceful solutions and address these issues and face our history and ourselves, we cannot be afraid to say, I might say the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And so these are not, spaces like this are not designed to be safe.
Yeah.
It's not safe. It's not going to be safe, but they should be courageous spaces for everybody in this room to be able to speak their truth, to learn, and to figure out what does the way you were raised and the way you learn stuff, What does that have to do with the big picture of change that we're trying to address? And
Yeah,
I'm loving the
and
conversation.
And Tessa, I want to say that because I'm going to go forward because we have a couple special guests who are going to be presenting. But I wanted to say that's why I'm an advocate of brave spaces as opposed to safe spaces. I think you can have brave
Exactly.
spaces and with safety aspects in it. But talking about some of these topics, sometimes it is going to conjure up people feeling a little guilty or a little upset or a little hurt. So brave spaces is what we want to strive for. And I'm really interested in accomplishers as opposed to allies. And that is again a person who actually can almost envision if that were happening to themselves and acts as such. Again, that doesn't mean you're screaming or yelling. You can be the most peaceful person in the world. And like Tessa, having witnessed the tons of people that I work with who are no longer in their positions and they had the highest levels of grace and love and what they tried to do and gentle really weren't trying to do very much actually and who are no longer there because of these kinds of things. So I'm going to talk at you for a moment. I apologize for this, but I want to go through some things and then I want to have a couple special guests share a couple things with you. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen and thank you very much for your comments. I'm really appreciating every bit of them that you're saying. So basically, we're talking about confronting fears. And, I think there are all kinds of fears that we have when we're interacting with different people from different cultures. And if we go back, again, I keep talking about Sankofa, which is an African principle of going back and learning lessons from history and ways of being, our ancestors, our elders, because it really can keep us from wasting time. And it keeps us, hopefully, it hasn't thus far, from repeating the same lessons, and I'm talking about as a global community. But we have learned some things. We do know that certain things will lead to certain things. And believe it or not, some people use that to manipulate what's happening in our current environments. I'm going to pass the reflecting on equity and what is equity because I think most of you understand what equity is. But I'll tell you, in order to lay the foundation for utilizing the arts, these are some things that it's really going to take. This is the pre-bearer to doing that work, doing that artistic expression. And again, we're at the point where we're doing it in parallel, but it's going to take truth, consciousness. In other words, there are people that I know that are literally, they'll say to me, actually, I had someone say, I'm sticking my head in the sand. I just want to enjoy my life. I don't want to care what's happening to other people. I just want to get through this. But it's going to take some real consciousness if we're really being serious about change, some personal introspection, as well as organizational and community introspection. Definitely going to take courage and justice. And it's going to take a lot of resiliency. Like, Tessa was saying, those people who have had grace, and Tessa, I probably know some of the same people that you're talking about. It's going to take resiliency when they lose a job for just saying, is it okay that, why am I not being treated the same or asking a question or whatever their simple thing may have been, bouncing back and not letting it keep them from going forward in the work they're trying to do. It really is also going to take 4 parallel lines of work. This is based on my research, the work that I do, being in the field and working with the thousands of people now that I have been blessed to work with and learn from. It's going to take work at the individual level, at the systems level, with that historical understanding and understanding what equity is, and overall and specialized competency in your chosen discipline. So if you are a sculptor or a painter or a singer, how can you use that music? What are the best practices in that area that people like you are doing to have an impact in the area of social justice and change? And then most importantly, it's going to take engagement with real people and implementing what you have learned. So I know a lot of universities across the country and across the world who are theoretical. They're getting all the money, they're getting all the grants to go into communities that are being affected by injustice, by all these things, and they are getting the preponderance of the money, often given just stipends to the people who are in those communities. I think I mentioned this before. To do surveys and gather information and all of that, but they're not really partnering with those communities to have that real change. if you are serious about real change and you're a grantor or you have money or you want to do work, at some point you have to engage with the people in those communities. And that's one thing I'm really proud of at Sojo, having worked with them so substantially. They are in the field working with people constantly. So there's 4 core focus areas that people need to think about when we talk about being able to utilize the arts effectively. One is an individual component, another is that historical equity, cultural competency component. How are you becoming culturally competent? It's a lifelong journey. No one ever arrives there, but you get more and more efficacy as you practice this. There's a systems dynamics component. A lot of people have understanding individually of their own experiences or even in their community, but they don't really understand systems dynamics, which is actually a study within itself. How do systems work and converge together to impact communities where you're seeing these perpetual, consistent, insidious, cross-generational things that are still affecting large groups of people around the world? And then also you need knowledge building based on discipline and demographics. So like if you have a particular demographic that you're working with, one of you is working with African American students. I think that was not, I can't remember exactly which one of you was sharing that right now, but having understanding of that particular demographic, if it's Latinx, understanding there are similarities across all people, but there are niche, unique practices, mores, values, cultural traditions that one needs to understand. And not everyone from a particular demographic practices all those things, but we do see what we call cultural patterns, which are different than stereotypes. Cultural patterns are when large groups of a particular demographic seem to do a certain kind of thing that goes with being who they are, as opposed to saying, oh, all Mexicans eat tacos, or all blacks are thugs or criminals, or, some of the stereotypical language that we've used in the past. And then also sharing this with other people. As a part of this whole process and being foundational to doing the work that we're all trying to do, and especially for those who are going to go beyond levels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And when I say that, 5, going up to 5, level 5, and again, this is not a judgment thing. Usually most people are comfortable working with you all the time. You're not doing anything that's causing them any discomfort or to look deeply into themselves. They make you feel good. They're not challenging you. That's usually 1 to level 5 work. Again, I'm not judging it. It's better than nothing. But when you start getting to 5 to level 10, where you are going to speak more truth to power, even if you're doing it in all the right ways and all the good training you've been taught. When you start going to levels 5 and 10, your self-care becomes even more paramount and more important because you're going to get more kickback from people. You're going to have people challenging you. You're going to have people fighting against you, and all kinds of things that many of you have experienced or not, depending on who you are. But self-growth and self-care, as you entertain and intermix with these things, become critical. Willing to spend time growing your own knowledge and understanding of equity, cultural competency, and transformative engagement is critical, as well as, again, that historical understanding of constructs, practices, and policies. White supremacy and isms. White supremacy is global. It is a dynamic. We can call it supremacy ideology. We can use all kinds of euphemisms. There was a trend to do so with the Kirwan Institute because it was making people feel guilty. It really got us no place. I believe in just saying what it is and then addressing it. And so it doesn't mean that everyone who's white is a horrible person. It means it's a system that has had a tremendous impact globally on a large swath of people. So in order for us to be even more effective in utilizing the arts, we really do need to have about a 30 to 40% satiation, accumulation of knowledge, of key equity, cultural competency, diversity, and systems dynamics knowledge. Having at least a 30 to 40% knowledge of these things is going to make your interventions, the way you plan, the way you write grants, the way you do your work, much more effective. it becomes critical too. And then also having that customized knowledge for your discipline and the target population, again, is important. And of course, reinforcing the importance of evaluation, because what may have worked in 5 generations before you may not work with this generation because of some nuanced thing that we're missing that only evaluation would tell us. It's important that we are consistent and committed in our effort towards the end goal. In other words, that the work we do, we're doing before any funding, keep doing it as we get funding, and we'll do it when that funding is gone. When leadership changes and staff challenges, people come and go. You have a boss or a person who is friendly toward these kinds of things, social justice, implementation and learning, and then you have a new boss who's totally against it. How do you keep, you have to think about how are you going to keep this going for the benefit of your organization, your institution, your community, the hard work that you've done. These are real issues that happen. So you will be working with a particular entity, and one leadership change can cause that whole work to feel like it's been stalled or even, poured down the drain. So having a system for thinking about how you're going to address these things beforehand is good. Some of us in our cohorts have people, for example, who are leading the charge. Well, what happens if that leader leaves or moves on or gets a different job or dies or something like that? So part of thinking about this work is looking at those kinds of things. So systems dynamics and cultural identity, best practices for your particular discipline and the research that goes around it. Like when you use dance, for example, what kinds of dance efforts or presentation are having the most impact? What types of spoken word or what types of paintings or artistic expression, when you do that, what are those people who are having the most impact doing that stands them apart from everyone else who's doing the same thing? Considering the physical environment you in, the regular messaging that you're giving your people and so forth to continue to encourage them, your organizational system for how you're going to put this forward. And all of this should be templatized, by the way, so that when you move on, retire or die, the next group can hit the ground running that you've been working with. So coming up with that evaluation again is going to be important, and having an archive document, like I think this grant is encouraging, will there actually be data that's been recorded and put down, and that can be used for the next initiative or the continuation of current work. And then, making sure it's based on switching from a crisis-driven schedule to a proactive one. A lot of us are in crisis-driven mode, understandably. That happened when COVID hit because people weren't doing that preemptive, proactive planning, and doing the work that should have been doing, quite frankly, eons ago. Some people have been, obviously, and we're thankful for it, but many people were not. The goal is to plan ahead extensively so you've identified as many of your needs and can create compounded learning experiences, successful strategies, transferring knowledge to collaborators, and create a mind share of approaches and interventions. Coordinating efforts with other presenters and trainings so that there is a consistency, flow, and order. In other words, keep building off of your trainings. It would be nice if we were all doing things where, like, for example, when we were doing trainings, that one built upon the other so you could go deeper and deeper and deeper and not stay just around the letter A. And a lot of us are doing this work, but I'm talking in general as we approach the work and as we work with other people. People actually committing and deciding that they're going to slowly implement to the best of their ability strategies that show real promise of working with those that we are serving. And then, of course, hope, like Richard was saying, and knowing that you can make a tremendous difference. So, there's rules of engagement to the work we do. Alpha was alluding to this when she was saying, depending on how you approach things and how you do things, it can get you pretty far. Sometimes you can be one of those blessed few that doesn't have any problems across the course of your career, but understanding that there are rules of engagement. that most institutions, communities, and individuals act upon. And when we step out of those rules of engagements to bring truth to power, there usually is going to be some sort of consequence or kickback. It's like acknowledging that we all need kind of a life skills curriculum in the area of social justice and change, and laying the foundation for using the arts so that people can go to that curriculum to start and then customize it depending on what they're trying to do. Taking their cultural acumen that they've learned from their elders and ancestors, and the social emotional learning, because this is a real journey. And I'm going fast, so forgive me, but just giving you an overview that relates to the real living and experiences that are happening for people. So when we address the key pillars which support development in individuals, familial, organization, and community competencies, that's when we start to see change. So very quickly, I want to talk about 4 things that I think are important to lay the foundation for optimizing and utilizing the arts to make a difference. One is called, and this is a culture co-op thing based on research and working with collaborators around the country and parts of the world that we have come up with. One is called the personal zone, one is called the historical zone, the other is the knowledge zone, and the fourth is the planning, implementation, and evaluation zone. The personal zone, very briefly, and I'm not going to go because each of these is a training in within itself, is knowing who you are. Who are you? What's your culture, your family? What are your mores and values? What do you feel your purpose is right now? In other words, getting in touch with your identity, your cultural identity, your historical identity, your group identity, what you are here for, what's your plan? How are you going to support yourself? What is critical to you? What is something that you must do in your life? And again, I'm giving it a quick overview. You know, understanding that you have to love yourself first and understand who you are, remembering that love is foundational for confidence and living a wonderful life and living with passion for yourself and others. Again, what's your culture? What's your history? What makes you happy? Why are you the person you are today? The personal zone is a deep dive into all of you. So, just quick example, this is my great grandmother. Me learning about her life and who she was. Someone kept telling me I looked like my great grandmother when I had my hair like this. This is her daughter, my grandmother, and understanding where she came from, her ag roots, and the person that she was, and the life that she had. All of that has made me who I am today. I did a deep dive into both of their lives. My grandfather, Rufus X. Holman from Texas, he is definitely why I am who I am, he was ahead of his time. He understood social justice before they called it that. He understood all the different names that were using DEI and all this critical race theory, whatever you want to call it, before they were called those things. He is the one who laid the foundation for me to excel. And in my personal zone development, this is where I grew a lot. My mom and the person she is, she's the one who taught me about, Sandy, none of this can be done without the foundation of love. I still hear her voice to this day in my head. She told me, be nice, be brave, be loving, be kind, and tell the truth, do the work. And she is the one who taught me, if every situation you're leaving, everyone's smiling and happy, you are not doing something right in the work you're doing. She's talking about those of us who are working in social justice. And I knew what she meant, not when she said it, but much later, because I found this out in a personal way. So the personal zone helps you explore who you are and all of that. I'm going very quickly again through this, but that is an important zone because you can't do this work without losing yourself at times if you don't know who you are. The historical zone is also critical. This is important in order to be able to do and utilize the arts effectively. It keeps us from wasting time. It's amazing, but it's true. To operate in the 21st century, we have to have a solid understanding of historical happenings and events in our world. Participation in this zone is not done enough, which is why we're repeating the same mistakes over and over and over. For everything that's happening today, it's already happened in the past. We know this. And so the historical zone requires us to go and learn about inequity and learn about systems and how they were structured. and learn that it was intentional and by design. The institutions and the things that we're seeing today, they've only morphed across generation in their manifestation. This is one of the most critical zones. It will save you a lot of time in the work you're doing. What have people been doing for years before you that made them effective when they used the arts, for example? What were people doing combining arts and social change and marketing and reaching out to people to create solidarity and so forth. Again, it's a critical zone. This is a training that we spend 4 or 5 sessions on because it's so important. But that personal zone combined with the historical zone and then the knowledge zone. The knowledge zone is when you understand key principles that impact systems and the fueling of oppression, social injustice, and inequality. These principles assist in creating a structured hierarchy for who controls power and what happens in our daily living. And if you don't understand that knowledge, again, you're going to be attacking your work in kind of haphazard ways, and that's not a judgment because we do the best we can with what we know. So, for example, politically speaking, for those who are just registering people to vote, but not understanding the power that institutions, that corporations have been given to count as a vote when they actually exert a lot of power over what we can do in our lives, would be a little misguided. And I'm giving you a simple example. But the knowledge zone combined with the historical zone, the personal zone, and the evaluation zone are going to help you lay the foundation. This is part of the knowledge zone, understanding that we're a global community, that the IMF, the World Bank, United Nations, the way all those things are structured, give certain advantage to countries over other countries. And all of this parlays into our politics, our healthcare, our education, our environment. There are power brokers, often the top 5%, that fuel and sustain this going. Systems dynamics. And at the root of it, what are we looking for? We're looking for an equitable, inclusive, and just world. But if you don't understand the upper echelons up in the sky, how the national community, how the World Bank, how IMF, all those places work together to come together to affect who has power and who has not, who's doing well as a country and who is not, who's doing well as a nation and who is not, who's doing well as a community and who is not, who's doing well as a city and all the way down to a household and who is not. Your work is going to be thwarted if you don't have some understanding. So I'm not going to go over this because it goes deeper into it right now. But, as we think about becoming culturally competent and utilizing the arts to make a difference, we know that knowledge, awareness, skills and ability, and action is what it's going to take, combined with that personal zone, that historical zone, that knowledge zone, and that evaluation implementation zone. So you have a problem, you're trying to find the cause of it, you're going to implement some strategies and interventions, you're going to come up with some solutions, and then you're going to test those solutions and see if they work. That should be happening on a quarterly, if not at least a yearly basis. Why continue doing something when you know it doesn't work? So change makers are historically informed, they work collaboratively, they take knowledge learned from the past and let it inform their actions, they adopt and work collaboratively, and they understand systems. Most of us are lacking in understanding systems. Now, because of our time and because I want to go to our special guest today, I'm going to stop by saying this. In order to understand and use the arts effectively to ensue change, we want to realize that we have a very structured country, and I'm only talking about this country, but this happens all over the globe. We have the designers of conscious, of creating a racist, ism, sexist, all those kinds of things system, and they design the rules of the system. A few members of the privileged groups are privy to the design, but most others do not know that a game is being played. So way back when, in the inception of this country, the designers of this country designed it so magnificently, solidly in the way that they did that, we're still seeing the nefarious manifestations of that to this day. So there were designers who designed what we are seeing today, and it's only morphed and transformed in its representation. Advocates are policymakers, formal or informal, who determine how the game and who's going to get to play the game. They decide that the game must be played even if they do not understand its purpose or its original design. So they may not have designed the system, but they perpetuate it because they go and do what they're taught to do. So, for example, teachers go to school to learn how to become a teacher. They don't question why the curriculum the way it is, why they're learning certain things and not others, why they're learning predominantly about Eurocentric things and not other cultures. They just want to get their degree so they can teach. The designers designed it with a certain intent. The advocates now, in this case, we're using our teachers as the example, they just want to get their degree. They get their degree and they go out and perpetuate what the designers designed, whether it's good for children or not. I'm just trying to give you an example. Dealers merely manage the game according to the rules and procedures they've been taught. Those are those teachers now out in the classroom teaching. They usually do not have the power to decide how the game will be played or what the design of the game will be. Teachers will tell you, using that example again all the time, that they cannot decide what's going to be taught in the classroom. They're told by their principals and their administrators what they cannot teach. So like if you say, why can't an artist come in and talk about African or Asian or Latinx art? They'll say, that's not in the curriculum. It has not been approved. And if I teach that, I could use my job. That's happening a lot, by the way, right now around the country. A lot of people who are trying to give students what they need beyond a very Eurocentric and confining curriculum that's being taught in our schools that's not serving students of color very well. They're losing their jobs as they try to still add extra to those things so kids can have their needs met. So dealers are people, a nurse goes to a nursing program, scientists go to scientist program, your college professors, and then they teach they're basically being taught doing and carrying out what the designers have designed for them. And many people do not question that. We just do it and inadvertently perpetuate some of the inequitable practices that have been going on for centuries, which is why a lot of things have not changed. The pawns, and I did not come up with these names, by the way, for this. This was out of someone's research, and I just cannot find his name right now, but I will. But pawns are the victims of the system. They don't know what's happening to them. Why are there so many Black and brown people in jail? Why are there so many other groups that seem to have high levels of poverty rates? Why does it seem like there's so many people who don't have health care who tend to look like you and me? Why is that? They don't understand it. They don't understand that the designers have designed it that way, that the advocates and dealers are perpetuating that whether they mean to or not, because that's what they were trained to do. The pawns are usually not able to escape the negative outcomes that the vast majority, and they're blamed for their circumstances when they actually had nothing to do with the design of these things to make them happen. I'm going to stop there just because I want to get back to saying to you all that understanding some of these basic tenets that I quickly went over are critical, in-depth understanding at that 30 to 40% satiation rate for us to be optimally effective. It doesn't mean we can't be effective, and many of us are being effective without this knowledge, but you could really become a game changer if you would learn some of these things that allow us to utilize the arts to make a difference. So when you have this backdrop, like I do in my head, I was forced to have this by my elders. I was taught well by my ancestors. I was taught well by working out in the field, being in places that people don't want to go, working with people that people don't want to work with, in your face training, more knowledge than I ever got out of an institution or a college or a school. I approach my work differently. It's not surface work. It's not popular work. It's rigorous work that is designed to have an impact. And I want to be honest with you and say few people are willing to go deeply to do that kind of work. But some people do. One sample I want to talk about today is with Mia. Mia is an artist and she has been working with me as an intern. She understands some of these things. She's learning some of these things, and young people give us hope. Um, Mia is using her work to try and make a difference. And so I'm going to let her talk about what she does. And we're going to have Brianna do the same, and then we're going to respond to that. So Mia, it's my pleasure to go ahead and have you share.
Hi, everyone. So I guess I wanted to first start off really introducing myself and my inspiration for my work. I have always had a passion for social justice issues, and it's a great opportunity that I've met Sandy and have been a part of the Culture Co-op. And recently I actually went to the Medi Strand Museum and I saw these artworks from Malaquias Montoya. And I'm gonna share my screen real quick and show you the specific piece that really inspired me. And I really love graphic design. And yeah, he had a collection in the museum, and it consisted of these very minimalist but very effective art pieces that really displayed a message that not a lot of people, I guess, are aware of. This one, for example, is Murió una muerte natural, which means he died, or this person died of natural causes, even though it's clear that it wasn't. And this really inspired me and my piece that I created. And I'm focusing the social justice issue that I'm really focusing on is about immigration and the way Latinos, since I am a Latina Mexican American, my family is from Mexico and they're all immigrants. And I really wanted to showcase how much I value my family and wanted to give that a kind of a voice through my artwork. And let me pull it up real quick. I think it was, I'm not sure if it's letting me pull it up. Sorry, one moment.
No, it's okay, Mia. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, not sure why it's not letting me pull it up.
Do you need permission to host?
No, it's fine. I got it now.
Okay, great.
Thank you. So this is, oops, sorry. Okay, so this is the art piece that I made. I was inspired by the graphic elements and the simplicity and the minimalist approach that Montoya used in his artwork. And I really wanted to showcase the way that people view and how the government treats immigrants is really my motivation. And I want to shift that narrative in order to humanize immigrants. And the way our previous president actually talked about immigrants and Latinos in general has really been demoralizing for the community and really caused a lot of damage. So taking our voice and power back through art, I feel like is really going to make a change. And I want to continue to make more artwork that can challenge the government and just the way people view immigrants in general. And yeah, I made this because it's really true that immigrants built the foundation for this country. And it's not only Latinos, it's really all people of color who laid the groundwork and put in the work to make this country the way that it is and how it works and runs. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. And Mia, I just really appreciate you from the depths of my heart and soul. I have been really blessed to work with interns from a variety of different cultural backgrounds. Mia is the leader of our art design team, and her passion for what she does shines through. And I learn so much from my interns every day. Another one I would like to introduce you to you who's joined us today is Brianna. If she's still here, there she is. I'm going to have Brianna share, and then you guys can ask them questions if you like with the time that we have left. There was supposed to be a couple other artists who were going to join us, but they weren't able to make it today because of class. So, Brianna, you want to go ahead and share now? And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'll just go ahead and share a little bit of my own work.
Are you able to share, Brianna?
I can't really. Um, oh, okay. I found it, sorry. Um, so this is a work that I did for Sandy for the Culture Co-op, for a book cover called Gumbo Soup for the Spirit. And it was really an honor to do this because it allowed me to portray Sandy's family as well as kind of like the connection to the soup itself, to gumbo soup. So it was really an honor to kind of learn about that connection between Sandy and like this food, as well as just like African culture in general. And as a Latino myself, I know family is super important and sharing family histories and sharing reflections on family and culture is really important. So creating this cover kind of allowed me to learn about that more outside of my own culture and how other cultures kind of, you know, reflect on their own heritage and their own like family and connections to food. So that was something really special. And then kind of similar to Mia, I'm also very passionate about um immigration and the impact that immigrants have had on this country, not just specifically the Latino people, but also all people of color. Um, and recently, for a class I had, we had to reflect on how modern art itself has had an impact on how people of color are often portrayed. So I didn't do this by myself. This was done in collaboration with other students in the class, but we essentially created a poster that often shows how modern art sometimes can take the traumas of people of color or marginalized groups in this country and often exploit that and use that for their own monetary gain. So that poster kind of reflects on that a little bit. And we developed that piece a little more by actually creating it and turning it into a museum. And so you can see these four pieces kind of represent sort of not the main, but some of the most notable exploitations of marginalized groups in this country. We have immigrant rights here, and we have the police brutality experienced by Black people, as well as the brutality experienced by Indigenous people. And so what the money here represents is that often, again, like I said, these museums and these modern art institutions will take the pain and the suffering of these marginalized groups and kind of use that for their own gain by forcing people to essentially spend their own money to buy tickets to go into these museums to see these pieces. when in reality, art should be free. Everyone should be able to see it. And it shouldn't be these museums telling these stories, but rather the people that have experienced the suffering, telling that story and making their own art themselves for the world to see.
So as you can see, you're seeing in person why I love working with young people. They're just magnificent. And what I want to say is that these two things connect, what I shared and what the tidbit of what they're showing you. And I actually had a lot more stuff to show you, but I knew this was really, I had enough for 3 sessions, and I kind of had to really condense it down to just this one. But I want to say that both of these young people have been so committed on their own and as a part of this internship to learning some of the historical systemic constructs and practices and things which I feel are going to make their work even much richer when they use it to impact their communities. And they're willing to go across lines. Brianna honored me so by doing that cover and learning something about African culture and its impact in the world. And in this case, something as simple as gumbo soup, which actually has a lot of historical significance going all the way back to Africa, and then sharing the piece about indigenous issues and so forth and what's happening with museums. I love that what she just said about museums. That could have been a part of last time. Mia, the same. They're just so dedicated. So the work you're all doing is very important, and I want to leave you an opportunity with the few minutes we have left to ask them some questions or ask me questions about what I said. But mainly what I wanted to express to you today, if we dig deeper and do some of this groundwork, if you stay the course. I know Yolo County, for example, has started some things. Tessa, I had the opportunity to do something with Tessa in the library, but we only went to step 1. And we go deeper. I think all of our work is going to benefit from it and even be more powerful, even though it's pretty powerful as it is right now. So please feel free to ask me or Mia or Brianna any questions since they've joined us, or just to make a comment if you like. Anyone?
Yeah, I want to thank both of the students for presenting. I really love the work that you're doing and how you've interpreted, the social justice in your work, and how you captured that. For the first young lady that presented,
Mia?
would be Mia. Did you start that process with a team of people, kind of shaping the images in your work? What was, again, your process? Did you, like Brianna showed us sketches and, the collectiveness of gathering, the images on the poster? Is your process similar to that?
Yeah, I actually did it on my own. It was just really based off of just going to the exhibition and taking inspiration. And I saw those and I immediately went home and I did some sketches because I was so inspired. And they really moved me because it was very personal to me. And I did some sketches and it was a lot of trial and error in the sketches. I still have more ideas for social justice art, and it's definitely something that I'm not going to just stop. I feel like I have endless ideas because the possibilities are endless in art. So yeah, I do sketches and then I go into Adobe Illustrator, and that's how my process usually goes.
Mia, can you all hear
Yes.
me?
Yes.
Yes, Jennifer, go ahead. She hears you.
Sorry, I'm feeding the little one.
That's okay. That's adorable.
So Mia, are you familiar with the Taller Arte de Nuevo Amanecer that Malaquias founded off of the UC Davis Chicano Studies Department?
I'm not familiar.
So it's in Woodland, and I highly
Mhm.
encourage you to take a little drive out there or a bus ride. It is completely free. It's one of his legacy offerings to the students and the community at large. It's in Woodland, California on Lemon Street off of Main Street. And it's open, if not 5 days a week, probably more. And you can ask for Eddie or Jose. And it's known as Tana, Tana. You can find it on IG. And it's a place where I had the pleasure of working with young people as a mentor, which I wanted to bring up. I really appreciate you acknowledging that you kind of landed at that space and was inspired and you got to work. That's exactly why Malakias has been doing his work, his abolition work actually, and his work against the death penalty for many, many, many years. And the power that you carry behind you and working alongside and learning from Auntie Sandy is a tremendous testament, you know, when you taking what you see and immediately responding in such a way of not only reverence for your family and your community members, but to the legacy of, you know, freedom fighters that you represent by putting your own artwork forward. And in that, I would just also like to acknowledge Auntie Sandy and their work in inspiring me for over 20 years. And, you know, honestly, if it wouldn't have been for Alpha Bhutan, who's here, and Michelle Walker, who's not here in the physical, but definitely here in our spirit world, she was the first, you know, African Indigenous woman to lead the not only to lead the public art department, but also to be the executive director of the Sacramento Arts Commission, which is a different form in its entirety now. But nonetheless, their work still stands in a way that unifies us. And I hope you too, Mia, are taking what you know and working with young people, because quicker than ever, you know, our young people are turning things around and finding new roads and new paths in ways that took our teachers quite a bit of time and quite a bit of sacrifice, actually, you know, to allow us to be on the path that we get to walk today as artivists and art educators and healers in our communities. So, you know, Shona and I were really, really blessed to have people like Alpha seek us out and lift us up and build tables, you know, where there was no room to sit at a table, really. So I applaud you and your colleague both for doing the work you do as student activists. Thank you.
Thank you so much for blessing her with that. I know our time is winding up. If someone has a brief comment, because I'd like to do a real quick closure. Did anyone want to ask another question or anything very quickly? Or comment? Was this useful to you today? Okay. I adore our elders and our ancestors and young people, the full circle of it all, the giving back of it all. And I want to thank you for honoring us with your presence today. And again, Alpha and Liza, for doing this, because I think it's a wonderful way to cross-pollinate and share. I want to encourage you all to stay the course and to not give up, and to seek those best practices. There's tons out there. Again, this listening session is usually best done in 4 parts. And I usually don't call it a listening session, but I like that Alpha and Liza have laid this format for this to happen, because that is something that I know that as we galvanize and move forward toward more powerful impact in things, having that mind share and that knowledge, that 30 to 40% satiation rate, is going to really lay a foundation for our artists to go out and feel like they are equipped. Not only do they have their artisan skills and their knowledge and their own individual social justice work, but they have the full force of history and our ancestors and the systems knowledge and everything that they need to even make it expand to a wider purview and have a stronger impact. So I just want to ask you to close your eyes just for a second before I turn this over to Alpha. And I want to ask you to take a deep breath in and blow it out. Take another deep breath in and blow it out. And no soiro ko hosi na ira kapairo toso, me na ira ki aira ko hoki na ira mama ira puso, isa ira ko hosa ira mama ira ti kairo koya. And it's just a blessing to wish you all a good rest of your day and the strength and the bravery and the pacing that you need, self-care and love, and the knowing that there are many others out there like you who are doing this work to connect with. And may you be blessed in your impact and realize the importance of all that you do and that it makes a difference. Alpha, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Sandy, for your presentation today for the Sojourner Truth African Heritage Museum and our Capital Region Creative Corps at Sojo. And we're all about technical urbanism and art and placemaking and the work that we're doing in the community over on 24th and Florin and with our cross-sector partners along Florin Road. Before I make any other announcements, I'd like to make sure that we're inviting everyone to your next listening session. If you want to talk about that and give the topic for that one, Sandy.
And I'm going to apologize because it's a good topic, but I can't remember right now what it is because I was running back and I'm doing several presentations. But I really do hope you come and join us for the last presentation.
June 4th.
Yes.
It's in the chat.
Oh, she's such
Right.
If you'd like to read it.
Would someone read it for me since it's very hard for me?
She'll be talking on promoting systematic change, equity, social justice, and community engagement in rural ways is her topic. And you all are invited back. And you can also send the invite out to other partners throughout the region. And we would love to have you here at the Pop-Up Research Station.
Thank you for that, Liza. And yes, and please do come back and join us. And if you have any comments or questions, you can feel free to, Alpha has my contact information. You can feel free to reach out to me and ask those questions, and I'll do my best to respond to them. And Rachel, again, Richard and Melissa, all of you guys, I want to thank you for gracing us. And I'm really proud of Mia and Brianna. My dear hearts, I really just love them to death. Let's give them a hand. Thank you again, Alpha, for allowing them to come. And sorry the other three couldn't come. I had other artists from different backgrounds too who weren't able to make it today. So.
And we also are extending an invitation for you to come to the museum and visit Shona McDaniels at the museum, which is located at 2251 Florin. The museum is open Thursday through Thursday, Friday, and also Saturday, and there's special programming going on. I did put the link to our website in the chat, and you can also schedule tours to come through the museum. And as part of our listening sessions, we offer listening session for our artists to talk about their work on Blog Talk Radio, and that's Creative Conversation. And then we also meet here every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time for candid conversations on Pop-Up Research Station Cafe. You can bring your breakfast or lunch, your tea or coffee, and join us for conversation. What's coming up is our Creative Corps will be phasing into workforce development this month and launching projects at Luther Burbank High School. And we're also over at Twin Rivers Unified School District teaching art and social justice. So we'll look forward to seeing you all again.
Put the Banana Festival on your calendar.
Yeah, the Banana Festival. We also have a billboard that's going up, advertising and branding our Banana Festival. And it's a major fundraiser for the museum, but also our Creative Corps artists will be doing placemaking there at the Banana Festival, which is held at William Lamb Park off of Freeport and Sutterville.